Coming number 10, we have Amber Heard. A lot has gone down since Amber Heard spent a lot of money on legal fees during her high-profile legal battles with her ex-husband, Johnny Depp. Before, Amber's career started off slow, but once she was married to Johnny Depp, she was starting to become a household name. She was actually on the verge of becoming a huge star in Hollywood after gaining traction thanks to her roles in the films such as Justice League and Aquaman. However, after Amber had a really dramatic split from her ex-husband, Johnny Depp, in 2016, it seems like her bank account took a serious hit. It all started when Johnny first agreed to pay Amber $7 million as part of their initial divorce settlement, and she vowed to donate it. However, in 2021, the media then started to run with reports that claimed Amber didn't donate the money she promised she would. Her legal team would then defend her lack of actions made towards her by suggesting she had spent millions of dollars defending his accusations against her. Then jump to last year, Amber Heard would then be left to fork over $10 million in total following her highly publicized defamation suit case against Johnny Depp, which makes Amber currently worth negative $6 million. Number 9, Tyga. Back in 2015, Tyga would find himself being sued yet again over unpaid rent, which was worth a whopping $16,000 a month. And this wouldn't be the first time the rapper would find himself in a sticky situation, as in the past, he has even been ordered to pay around $80,000 in back rent to another landlord in the same neighborhood. Now, the Sunshine rapper is heading back to court because he has been skipping out on his court order payments for his Lamborghini and Bentley. Tyga apparently owes $481,000 for both cars because he needed to pay for both of the cars in interest, and he brought his debt to a total of $1.3 million. However, according to the Celebrity Net Worth, Tyga does have a net worth of $7 million despite being no stranger to lawsuits over missed payments and even tax issues. Hey my little peaches, are you liking this video so far? If so, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Coming number 8, Kanye West. To say Kanye is poor would be an overstatement. However, the rapper did end up losing over $1 billion after he lost top brands such as Adidas, Gap, and the disgraced fashion house Balenciaga when they terminated their relationship over his controversial comments. He would also head himself towards a divorce with Kim Kardashian, where Kim would receive $1 million per year she was married to him, and she would also remain on Kanye's life insurance policy, which is valued around $20 million for the rest of her life. Kanye would also be ordered to pay Kim $200,000 a month. He is also responsible for 50% of his children's educational expenses, security expenses, and medical expenses, which doesn't leave Kanye in a good position as he lost majority of his fortune in just a blink of an eye. Number 7, 50 Cent. 50 Cent can arguably be one of the best rappers or one of the worst rappers that emerged out of the 90s. In 2015, 50 Cent had reportedly been in debt with $32.5 million as he was caught up in lawsuits and unpaid child support payments. The next year, he would then declare bankruptcy. Back in 2018, reports would then emerge. In them, it would be reported that 50 Cent was a millionaire again thanks to having $700 he was reportedly paid in on his 2014 album. However, then documents would state that that statement wasn't true, which left everyone wondering how much money he was actually worth because he's never owned any bitcoins. Number 6, Sugar Ray Williams. In the late 1970s throughout the mid 1980s, Williams was captain of the New York Knicks and played for the Boston Celtics 1985 finals team. But in 2010, the Boston Globe then reported that Williams was now sleeping in the back seat of his 1992 Buick in Palmano Beach, Florida. In interviews, Williams would then go on to say that he believes the NBA should be doing better when it comes to taking care of their retired players, as he is one of many former stars in need of assistance. In the interview, he would then go on to note, "Who I played the game. They always talk about loyalty to the team. Well, where's the loyalty and compassion for ex-players who are hurting? We open the door for the guys whose salaries are through the roof." As during a course of Williams' career, he blew over $2 million that he made in contracts during his career, which leads to the overall questions: do agencies like the Legends Foundation or the NBA Retired Players Association need to do more to help people like Williams, even though they've already given him grants that total around $12,000? Or did his coaches, teachers, and mentors all just fail him? Number 5, Natasha Lyonne. Orange is the New Black actor Natasha Lyonne was all over the big screen in the 90s and in films such as But I'm a Cheerleader, Slums of Beverly Hills, and American Pie. Her promising career was derailed after a series of encounters with law, but back in 2001 the actor would be arrested for driving under the influence, and in 2004 she would be charged with mischief, trespassing, and harassment of a neighbor and the neighbor's dog. These incidents were then followed by a 2005 hospitalization for a variety of ailments. She eventually was even evicted from a friend's townhouse and ended up on the streets. Since, Natasha has been trying to revitalize her career in acting by taking on roles in shows such as Orange is the New Black, Law & Order, and she's also appeared in an off-Broadway play called Tigers Be Still. Number 4. Brett Butler. In August 2021, it would be reported that former Grace Under Fire star Brett Butler had fallen under hard times when she became the recent subject of a GoFundMe fundraiser started by a friend, despite having made over $250,000 for an episode for her 1990s hit ABC comedy series. Brett would then tell The Hollywood Reporter that she was 6 months behind on her rent, and she was worried that she may have waited too long to allow her friends to launch a GoFundMe. While the star felt ashamed to start up the GoFundMe page to begin with, she knew she needed to enlist in help as she had been struggling to live with the pressure. 5 years after the show Grace Under Fire was cancelled, she would opt to become sober. Brett has also stated she ended up in her current predicament because of bad financial decisions, threat by people she trusted, and being unable to work. Number 3. MC Hammer. At one point in time, MC Hammer was known for his legitimate hit, You Can't Touch This, but it seems like the star then became only a one-hit wonder. After MC Hammer debuted his track, he would soon have around $30 million in his bank account. Thanks to his success, Hammer was also able to buy himself a $1 million mansion, and that he made over $30 million worth of adjustments, and he staffed 200 people in his home. He also brought a horse stable where he kept 19 race horses. Combined with his unrestrained spending and numerous lawsuits, Hammer declared bankruptcy in 1996 while he was reportedly $13 million in debt. In 2011, he then went on Oprah Winfrey's show to talk about spending most of his days in California, Silicon Valley, and being loosely involved with about 8 companies. Then for a brief period of time, he was also on tour in 2019. Number 2. Nicolas Cage. At one point in Nicolas Cage's life, he was one of Hollywood's biggest stars as he earned himself around $40 million alone in 2009. However, he then became one of Hollywood's biggest spenders, as he splurged pretty much all his money on things such as horses, automobiles, and rare artifacts. His precarious style then led him to sell many of his personal belongings, including a treasured comic book. And while many would stop there, Nicholas would then go on to spend a lot of his money on old artifacts such as a dinosaur skull, a collection of shrunken heads, and a couple of castles being in Germany and in the UK. Eventually, the National Treasure actor spent his entire fortune on $150 million on some of the most bizarre things. Despite working in Hollywood since 1982, he eventually ended up in debt after he spent majority of his money on some pretty insane things. Then, by 2006, Nicholas became so overwhelmed in debt that he owed the Internal Revenue Service a mega $6.3 million. By the age of 40, he then spent enough money to make himself broke, and then he started to shift his blame on his accountant and said he was sending him down a path of financial ruin. And coming in number 1 today, we have Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman was known for being a great rebounder and teammate of Michael Jordan for becoming an eccentric celebrity. Outside of sports, Rodman would then become known due to his short marriage with Carmen Electra, and eventually became an unofficial US ambassador for North Korea. Back in 2012, Rodman's lawyers said he could barely afford living expenses and he couldn't even pay his child support. At the time, he reportedly owed over $800,000 in back child support, but in court documents, his lawyer said he was broke and sick. Back in 2019, he would be accused of stealing a 400-pound amethyst crystal from a yoga studio, as well as more than $500 worth of clothing from brand like Spiritual Gangster and Lululemon. He then denied the allegations that were being held against him and said the merchandise was a given gift. Not to mention, he also famously kicked a cameraman in 1997 and was fined $200,000 while being suspended for 11 games. games. The incident would then cost him $1 million in earnings. Starting off our list today at number 10, we have Bella Thorne. Okay, obviously Bella Thorne isn't rock bottom poor, but surprisingly she isn't as rich as we all thought she was. Thanks to her racy Instagram pics and her revealing outfits, the former Disney Channel actress has been able to become a tabloid darling. In 2017, if you factor in on her again and off again relationship with Keeping Up with the Kardashian star Scott Disick, it's pretty much made Bella become quite a public profile. However, before Bella became the big name she is today, after she left Disney Channel, she had $200 to her name, and at the age of 18, she even had to overcome some dark experiences, which even included her going broke at the age of 18. Things definitely did take a turn for the actress later, as she is now worth $12 million. However, that's still a pretty low penny for Hollywood standards, and she might find herself in a tough spot again, as she's formed a reputation for partying with bad boys instead of fine-tuning her acting skills. Number 9. Lindsay Lohan. Even though her glory days as a Disney star and a box office success of Mean Girls are far behind her, at one point Lindsay Lohan was everyone's favorite Hollywood it girl turned bad, and even after her reputation caught up to her, she's still trying to make up for all of her losses. After reaching the peak of her career, when Lindsay's partying got out of control and she publicly started to air out all of her family's dirty laundry, she quickly began racking up legal troubles. Eventually, her public and private mess-ups led to her losing paid gigs, paired with her substance abuse problem. The star's stints have even caused her to go in and out of rehab, which caused her to have a never-ending number of unpaid bills. And as quickly Lindsay made money in her career, she ended up losing everything. Even after the star lost everything, she could still be seen taking lengthy vacations in the Mediterranean when she was not living in London, which caused us all to wonder how she was affording everything when her net worth was only worth $500,000 at the time. Things today though have taken a turn for the actress, as she's now worth $2 million thanks to her Netflix deal and her new marriage. Hey my little peaches, are you liking this video so far? If so, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Coming at number 8, we have Ezra Miller. While Justice League is shaping up to be another sore loss for the DC Extended Universe, Ezra Miller's portrayal of the Flash has been heralded as a breakout performance, according to the Nerdiest, with fans hoping that Ezra Miller's solo performance as a heroic speedster, the Flash, would fix the problems that have plagued DC's attempts to mimic Marvel movie success, would only be left feeling disappointed as the star began to spiral out of control. With Ezra having a pretty prominent role in the Harry Potter spin-off series Fantastic Beasts, you would think that the actor having 2 blockbuster franchises under his belt would be worth some serious coin. However, instead, the actor's annual salary is only $500,000, which is a little alarming considering Grant Gustin, the TV version of The Flash, is worth $2 million, making Ezra only worth $4 million today. So it really makes you wonder, how did that happen? Number 7. Kelly Rutherford. After Kelly Rutherford starred in the hit television series Gossip Girl, you would think she would be sitting in a pretty good spot these days. However, apparently the star is now only worth around $1 million, which is nothing compared to what she used to be worth. Sadly, Kelly lost a lot of her money during a bitter 6-year custody battle over her children, and when her court case was finally settled, a judge would grant full custody to her German ex-husband Daniel, and Kelly would be only permitted to visit her kids in France and Monaco. Back in 2015, the Daily Mail would also report that Kelly's legal fees at the end totaled around $1.4 million, which forced the actress to file for bankruptcy back in 2013. Later, Kelly would also tell Vanity Fair that divorce is a total racket. Let's call it what it is. Everyone's making tons of money off of stupid people who don't settle out of court. And for somebody like my ex-husband, who has unlimited funds, who sued Google, this is just a sort of side fun project. Yikes. Number 6. Stephen Amell. Stephen Amell is a well-known Hollywood actor thanks to his role in the CW's hit show The Arrow. His time as the DC comic hero Green Arrow has been so successful that the series began a linchpin for shared TV universe that has grown to include The Flash, Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, and animated spin-offs. But despite the affectionately named Arrowverse flying high with fans worldwide, Stephen has a net worth of only $3 million. After 6 seasons of The Arrow and a supporting role in the 2016 summer blockbuster Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows, his overall net worth just seems a little weak, and it's honestly just makes no sense. Hopefully in the future, Stephen's agent will be able to hit a bullseye when it comes to Steven's future salary negotiations, as the star is being ripped off. Number 5, we have Alicia Vikander. After critically acclaimed performance in the sci-fi thriller Ex Mechanica, Swedish actress Alicia Vikander landed the coveted role of Lara Croft in the 2018 Tomb Raider reboot. Despite succeeding Angelina Jolie as the video game heroine, Alicia is only sitting on a net worth around $8 million, which is a far cry from Angelina Jolie's stunning net worth of $120 million, which honestly isn't that surprising since the reboot of Tomb Raider definitely didn't live up to the standards of Angelina Jolie. That being said, the first trailer of Alicia's Tomb Raider lit social media on fire, so there is a pretty good chance that the actress's gritty take on the role could be a hit with audiences and span a larger paycheck down the road. But hopefully it's just not through another Tomb Raider movie, because that movie seriously didn't do her acting any justice. Number 4, Jared Padalecki. Supernatural has been a reliable staple on the CW network since 2005, with its 15th season being the final season airing in the spring of 2020. The show was such a success that they even made a reboot series called The Winchesters. Since Supernatural ended, fans were indeed obsessed with the series, as it remained strong enough that there was also a launch of a spin-off series in 2017 called Wayward Sisters, which is surprising to hear that the series star, Jared, is only worth around $14 million, despite anchoring the popular show for more than a decade. Granted, Supernatural ended, it has been rumored that there is still a pretty good chance that the show could get more seasons later on due to the show's consistent ratings. And if this does happen, Jared should definitely ask for a raise. With the series having 15 seasons, he was definitely underpaid. While Jared and Jensen are open to the idea of rebooting Supernatural in the future, they just aren't open to the idea as of right now. But give it 2 more years and we'll probably see the famous heartthrobs back on TV doing what they do best. Number 3, Burt Reynolds. The late Burt Reynolds was a Hollywood legend with more than 50 years of acting under his belt. But despite his iconic status and a drink named after him, he only had a net worth around $3 million before he passed away. The Smokey and the Bandit actor was, however, the first to admit that he wasn't the best when it came to his finances, but he did it with that trademark Reynolds charm. He once even told Vanity Fair that he lost more money than possible as he never really watched his spending habits. While Burt was facing foreclosure on his Florida home due to his outrageous spending, he would say, "I've still done well in terms of owning property and things like that, but I haven't been somebody who's been smart about his money. There are a couple of actors who are quite brilliant with the way they handled their money, but they're not very good actors." He then ended the interview with a smile. Number 2, Stephen Baldwin. The Baldwin family as a whole has been so successful that it's pretty easy to imagine that the whole family is rolling in a pile of green behind the doors. But the bottom line for Stephen Baldwin, who happens to be Hailey Bieber's dad, is much different, as he's actually worth only around $1 million, which is pretty low when you compare it to Hailey Bieber's net worth of $20 million. Stephen can owe a lot of his net worth due to the fact that he landed himself in hot water a couple of years ago, after he failed to file income taxes for 3 years. His attorney would then tell CNN later that Mr. Baldwin is a man of faith and it's difficult for him to get jobs in Hollywood that are compatible with his faith. And that's one of the difficulties he's had for paying off the money. Well, maybe one day his wealthy relatives will float him a loan. Number 1, Pamela Anderson. In the 90s, Pamela Anderson pulled off the impressive transition when it came to career moves, as she went from being an X-rated model of the month to a successful actress, thanks to a small role on the sitcom called Home Improvement. After 2 seasons, Pamela made her biggest move by landing her now iconic gig on Baywatch, which paved the way for her starring in her own TV series called VIP. Also, throw in a couple of magazine covers in her infamous marriage to Motley Crue rocker Tommy Lee, it's no wonder why Pamela was then later named the most powerful Canadian in Hollywood back in 2005. However, things would then quickly turn south for the actor in 2009 after her career dried up and she found herself in more than $1 million in the hole after blowing tons of the cash renovating her home. She also ran into problems with unpaid taxes in 2012. Now today, Pamela is now worth $20 million, which might sound mighty fine to us, but it's not a whole lot in Tinseltown.
In at number 10, John Drew Barrymore. Barrymore. The son of the famous actor John Barrymore, as well as the father to Drew Barrymore, didn't exactly have the best life. Throughout his career as an actor, he was always being compared to the famous celebrities within his family tree. It probably also didn't help that his name is essentially a combination of both of their names. After struggling to book major roles, John eventually gave up on acting, but this didn't mean that he had a direction or new career path. Barrymore essentially became a homeless drifter. As his daughter was finding massive success in Hollywood, John would disappear and then end up in jail for either use or public intoxication. Sadly, he passed away from cancer in 2004. In at number 9, Debbie Clark. Also known by the name Storm, this celebrity was once a super athlete on the show American Gladiators back when he was big in the late 80s and early 90s. The show would pit various athletic contenders against one another in a series of physical competitions. Storm had performed on the show for 3 years before suffering a brutal injury that would ultimately end her career as a gladiator. For years following her moment in the sun, Clark would go from job to job. She tried working as a personal trainer, a chef, and even dabbled with country music. Although after years of career changes combined with the fact that she receives no royalty checks from the show, Debbie ended up on the streets. Reportedly, she has been living on the streets of San Diego with her son. In at number 8, Natasha Lyonne. Natasha had her breakthrough moment in acting at the age of 7 when she became a regular on the show Pee-wee's Playhouse. Following that, in her late teens, Lyonne was booking acting jobs at an enormous pace. Her biggest role though was when she booked the movie American Pie. For a while after that though, Natasha was in a dark place. First, she was arrested for drunk driving, then reports started coming out that the star was homeless. Additionally, she had been hospitalized with some very serious health issues that included hepatitis C, a heart infection, a collapsed lung, and methadone treatment, something that's typically used for only people that are addicted to. Thankfully, she has made a comeback with her role in Orange is the New Black, but we can only hope that this harmful pattern of behavior is done for good. In at number 7, Ted Hawkins. Most of the celebrities on this list are riches to rags stories, but for Ted Hawkins, he went from homeless to famous and then back to being homeless. Ted was born and lived in Mississippi for the majority of his life, and at an early age he had some run-ins with the law and was even arrested and sent to prison at 15 years old. Once getting out of jail, he lived as a hobo traveling by train up and down the East Coast. Eventually he found his way to Los Angeles because he assumed being homeless in a warmer climate would be better. Ted loved music, and whatever little money that he made was from playing his guitar on the streets. It was there where he was discovered by a record producer who was able to help Ted make his first and only studio album. Before he passed away in 1995, Ted was able to live out his dream of playing music around the world. In at number 5, Fantasia. After winning the 3rd season of American Idol, Fantasia Barrino was set up to have a fantastic career in the music industry. Her first album, called Free Yourself, even received 3 Grammy nominations. However, by 2009, her $1.1 million home in North Carolina was being auctioned off to repay her massive debts. After defaulting on a $58,000 loan from Broward Energy Management, Fantasia was forced to give up everything. While promoting her VH1 reality series Fantasia for Real in 2010, she was asked about rumors by CNN surrounding Simon Cowell coming in to bail her out. She did not outright deny that she required help from the American Idol creator, but instead she urged people to watch the show to find out. So yeah, he definitely helped her out. In at number 4, Ed McMahon. This comedian and former sidekick to Johnny Carson built a wonderful career for himself in entertainment. He was well known for gifting millions in sweepstake prizes, but in 2008, Ed started to be the one that needed the money. Lenders started going after him after he missed several payments on his $4.8 million home loan that totaled nearly $700,000. During an interview with Larry King, he was asked how he went broke, for which Ed replied, "Well, if you spend more money than you make, you know what happens. A couple divorces thrown in, a few things like that. You want everything to be perfect, but that combination of the economy, I have a little injury, I have a situation, and it all came together. Or it all came undone." In at number 3, MC Hammer. Apparently telling the government you can't touch this when they ask you to pay taxes is the wrong thing to do. In 1990, Forbes magazine estimated the rapper was worth a whopping $33 million. Reportedly, he had owed the IRS nearly $800,000 in back taxes. Plus, he was also spending his fortune at an enormous pace. He had a staff of 200 people that cost him a staggering $500,000 a month just to keep. Plus, he decided to splurge on a custom mansion that would end up totaling $30 million. After being plagued by lawsuits, the Hammer ended up filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and during an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, he said, "It's time to close out old business and stop being the lottery for people who see MC Hammer as this big celebrity with a bottomless pit of dreams for people." God damn. Imagine you start feeling like the lottery? It's only a matter of time before you file for bankruptcy. In at number 2, Toni Braxton. Even though Toni had sold more than 40 million records, a shady business deal resulted in her receiving a measly $2,000 in royalties. After various financial woes, medical bills, and chronic health issues, Braxton was forced to file for bankruptcy in 1998. A source told Star magazine that Toni was so broke she couldn't even come up with her rent money. This insider also said that she's definitely at rock bottom and that she's so desperate for money that she's hoping to write a tell-all book about her life that she can get an early advance for. It seems like health issues really did play a major role in her unfortunate downfall. In 2008, she was forced to cancel her Las Vegas shows due to ongoing health issues, forcing her into bankruptcy again. She was able to make a kind of small comeback, but then by 2010, she was filing again for business and personal bankruptcy. Last but not least, in our number 1 spot, Wayne Newton. With a few big hits in the 1960s and growing his fame as a Las Vegas lounge singer, the most this celebrity earned was in 1983. However, by the time that we rolled around to 1992, Wayne Newton was going bankrupt and was $20 million in debt. The self-proclaimed Mr. Las Vegas was able to work himself out of debt, but the financial issues didn't end there. In 2005, he was sued by the IRS for failing to pay $1.8 million on the sale of his house. Additionally, his 40-acre property was seized in 2010 after he once again wasn't able to pay off the $3.35 million loan that he had taken on to purchase it. In order to pay off the debt, Newton was forced to turn his home into a public tourist attraction. Kinda humiliating, but hey, he should have saved his money better. In at number 10, Margot Kidder. We mentioned Margot in our Actors That Lost Everything video, but her situation definitely merits being brought up in this one as well. Kidder was the original Lois Lane and dated some of Hollywood's leading men like Richard Pryor and even famous politicians like Pierre Trudeau. After suffering from schizophrenia and manic depression, she refused treatment, which ultimately led to her fall from grace. Plagued by paranoia, she would routinely sleep in cardboard boxes in backyards around LA in 1996. With her front teeth missing and her hair hacked off, she looked far different than her early appearances in Hollywood films. In at number 9, Sugar Ray Williams. From the late 1970s into the middle of the 1980s, Sugar Ray was the captain of the New York Knicks. He would also go on to play for the Boston Celtics for the 1985 NBA Finals. However, by the time that 2010 rolled around, the Boston Globe released a very sad report saying that Williams was found sleeping in the backseat of his 92 Buick in Florida. During an interview, Ray said that the NBA should be taking better care of their retired players, citing that he isn't the only one that needs the assistance. He would go on to say, "When I played the game, they always talked about loyalty to the team. Well, where's the loyalty and compassion for ex-players who are hurting? We open the door for these guys whose salaries are going through the roof." In at number 7, Sly Stone. At the peak of his career, Sly Stone was the biggest name in music. As the lead in the legendary funk band Sly and the Family Stone, he owned multiple homes throughout the United States. One of his properties was a full-on vineyard in Napa Valley. Although after being cheated out of millions of dollars in royalties, he was forced to start living in a van. Sly's record label confused him early on with contracts that he could never really understand. Without help and someone looking out for Sly, they essentially robbed him of everything. From 1989 to 2009, he received 0 royalty checks despite being responsible for hit songs like Everyday People and Dance to the Music. Thankfully, Sly's luck has turned around in 2016 when he was awarded $5 million in damages after suing his former manager and lawyer. In at number 6, Alex Lambert. This one is a bit of a debate, and depending on whose side you take, the stories are vastly different. Alex Lambert traveled from Texas to LA to pursue a career in music, and his first stop was an audition for American Idol. After coming up short and not winning that season, Lambert vowed to stay in LA until something happened with his music career. He has been quoted saying that he would rather live in his car than go home and give up on music. However, the PR at Idol Production refuted that, saying that he's not homeless and that they don't know where that came from. The spokesperson added that Lambert had a development deal which meant that he should be able to pay for housing. In at number 5, Aram the Blade Barkley. Aram Barkley had an amazing boxing career, making a total of $5 million, but his retirement was not so kind. With no money coming in and the industry not taking care of its legends, Barkley was left penniless and unemployed. Come 2010, the New York Post was reporting that the former boxing champ was now homeless after being evicted from his Bronx apartment. Thanks to the work and support of the Bronx nonprofit Bronx Works and the boxing charity Ring 10, they were able to set Barkley up with at least housing and some assistance. Before that though, we had a boxing legend that was sleeping in subway cars and anywhere he could find on the streets. In at number 4, Houston McTeer. He was once referred to as the world's fastest human after this two-time Olympic qualifier tied the world record for the 100-meter dash, a record of 9 seconds that he tied while still in high school. After leaving Florida for Los Angeles, he even tried his hand at boxing with masterclass coaching from the likes of Muhammad Ali and Harold Smith. Although when America decided to boycott the 1980 Summer Olympics, it left McTeer with no platform to stand on. Because of this, he fell into utter obscurity, abuse, and before long, homelessness. For a while though, he was found sleeping in various spots on Santa Monica Beach. In at number 3, Erin Moran. At the age of 14, Erin was a household name. Her role as Joni Cunningham on ABC's Happy Days boosted her career into the limelight. Although unfortunately for Erin, the happy days did not last long. After falling on hard times, the Daily Mail released an article in 2012 showing a photo of the 51-year-old being kicked out of the trailer where she was living. According to the article, Erin's husband was tired of her hard partying ways and decided to kick her out. I don't blame him. The publication reporting on that said that Erin was bouncing from motel to motel around the country trying to stay off the streets. Later that year though, her and some former castmates of Happy Days sued CBS for not paying them properly for their merchandise revenue. Eventually they settled this in court, with each receiving a payment of $65,000. In at number 2, Rocky Lockridge. Rocky Lockridge was another boxing legend. He was responsible for serving Roger Mayweather, Floyd Mayweather's uncle, with his first big loss. That first round 98-second knockout gifted him with the WBA Super Featherweight Championship. Although his decline was slow and painful to watch, Lockridge had a terrible problem with and while homeless he suffered from a stroke, a devastating hit to his health that would force the former champ to start walking with a cane. His family had finally had enough of his and decided to have an intervention.
I still love you.
Yeah, that is Rocky Lockridge. Sadly, this only turned the poor man into a meme instead of rejuvenating his outlook on life.